First and 12. A weekly roundup of America's most competitive football conference, the Big 12. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Thanks for being with us, Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper. You can hear us various places throughout the week right here on your dial with Mitch Harper and Cougar Tracks, and also with Cougar Sports Saturday. And then I'm over on 97.5, the KSL Sport Zone every day with Jeremiah Jensen with JJ and Alex in the afternoons. And so we've got you covered top to bottom here. Lots going on. Mitch, it was another night of interesting reveals on the College Football Playoff Committee and their brand new rankings. We've been waiting for this all season long. I think one of the things that Reese Davis described, it was like teams are waiting all year to do this. Some teams fighting through adversities, others stepping on the rake and breaking their face. And I was like, well, that's an interesting way to describe it. And yet at the same time, there are probably some coaches and some programs who feel exactly that way, like it's straight out of a cartoon. They've ruined their seasons with just one loss, but that's not the case. There's still lots of football yet to be played. And I know that the college football playoff rankings are a big deal. However, the more important rankings, of course, to you and I, are the Big 12 power rankings. We bring them to you every week, and so let's just jump in right here with our Big 12 power rankings in Week 11.
The Big 12 Power Rankings, a weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
The People's Big 12 Committee is us here on First and 12. Big 12 Power Rankings every single week here on the program. We'll start at the top. Number one, it's BYU, undefeated in league play. The only team that is undefeated in the conference. They're 8-0 overall. BYU is off to an outstanding start with a true freshman quarterback in Bear Bachmeier, and there's even some positive momentum on the front of L.J. Martin, who BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick said tonight that L.J. will play. Don't know exactly the full extent of how much he will play. He kind of left that caveat, Aaron Roderick did, but did say that they will have him play on Saturday against Texas Tech. So BYU's feeling good. They're banged up, but I think they're the number one team and well-deserved. And they've had a tough schedule, too, where they've had a lot of road games, and they're still finding themselves going into November for the second straight year with an undefeated record.
Yeah, which is wild because I think the question marks, of course, in the offseason after Jake Retzlaff left the program, and you add a quarterback from another program in April and say, hey, no problem, just get to know the playbook, and then maybe you'll compete for that starting job, and he's doing it, is unbelievable to see what Bear Bachmeier is doing. You cover that team quite extensively, and so how has the bye week treated a team who's going to go down to their biggest test for sure all season long?
They feel refreshed, being around the team. And I will say, BYU, if you did a vibe check, they have this, calm demeanor this year where no game feels too big. I point to the Utah game where you thought, oh, man, biggest rivalry game maybe ever with it being in the Big 12 and both teams ranked and everything that came with that game, and BYU was calm, collected, poised. That's kind of the characteristics of their quarterback, too, and I think he leads everything, which is crazy to say for a 19-year-old, but he really does for this team, and I think BYU loves being an underdog going into who we have at number 2 in our Big 12 power rankings, number 2, Texas Tech, and rightfully so. Tech is playing some outstanding football. Really, you could probably go 1A, 1B with these two teams. They're Texas Tech, in terms of just sheer talent, they probably are the best team in the Big 12. But I think you still got to factor in that they have a loss, and that was to Arizona State without Baron Morton, keep in mind, in that game in Tempe. But, this Texas Tech team is flying high, and it feels, Alex, like if they, win this week, they are destined to go to Arlington and have maybe the greatest season in the history of this program in the 30th year in the Big 12.
Let me put on my my Texas coach's hat on here, Mitch, and just tell you. Look, we've been facing this. This is what we wanted all season long, a number 1 and a number 2, okay? So y'all buckle it up, strap up your helmets, and this is what you've been playing for. Call your mama, tell her to be there on Saturday. This is going to be a big one. Yeah, did that sound enough like the guys?
I'm ready,
that I played?
Coach. Let's go. Let's run through a wall.
Anyway, and for all y'all who have me after school for driver's ed, we're going to take today off. that's probably that was like the real guy that I had for my coach. All right, number 3 is Utah, which is interesting because they are for sure for sure number 3. And the reality is that you have people going, yeah, they lost to BYU, yeah, they lost to Texas Tech. Those are 2 losses. But neither of those programs in front of them want to face them again at this point.
No.
It just feels like a team who is rolling. That's what you want to do. You want to be at a spot you feel really, really good. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that they're better than Texas Tech and BYU. In the head-to-head, they lost both of those games. However, this is a team that by the end, there's a reason they're right behind on these with 2 losses in the college football playoff ranking because they deserve to be there. And if they win out, you're going to see them in the conversation for being the possibility of another Big 12 team to be in the college football playoff. I certainly hope that that's the case. Arizona State is number 4. We did not give them credit this week, Mitch. At least I remember I didn't. I said they're going to go in. They're going to lose this game to Iowa State. Iowa State's going to use Arizona State to get right. And instead, Jeff Sims and really the rest of that Arizona State defense. I mean, Arizona State did a phenomenal job on the defensive side of the ball. What was it, 3-3 at the half or whatever it was? Arizona State stuck in that game, and they stuck around, and Iowa State just melted. And to their credit, Arizona State is going to be missing their best player for the rest of the year. And I think that's a little bit of why Kenny Dillingham's giving his guys the rest of the week off. But I mean, their bye week off or whatever it is, because he wants them to go, look, reset you guys. We don't have our emotional and actual leader of this team who's going to be in our quarterback for the rest of the season, and that's a tough blow. I don't know if they're going to end up at 4, but they certainly deserve that ranking this week.
Considering all the injuries that Arizona State has gone through, including Leavitt, they are tough. And I think one of the things that stands out about Kenny Dillingham teams, no matter who his personnel is going to be in a given week, he will have them ready. I just thought that was a total spot where, old school Pac-12 team going into the Midwest, tough, harsh conditions, rainy atmosphere in Ames, and they still had a tough win. I thought that was a real impressive showing by ASU. And Kenny Dillingham, he is an excellent coach, and long term, I feel like he's just the perfect fit in Tempe.
Well, that's why we at Auburn. That's why we at Auburn, Mitch, want to offer you this job, Kenny Dillingham. Like that, he's
got to activate the because ASU. What's crazy too, an underrated piece to this with ASU, and I know they're not going to be chasing the playoff or anything like that this year, but I think they've got a great chance to maybe win out, potentially go 9-3. It's there for the taking. It's going to be tough. And just to think, back-to-back years of ASU actually maintaining something, because they've always been the program where they'll have one big year and then they fall off a cliff. They're maintaining some success, and I think that's something that you can build on if they finish strong the rest of the way. Number 5, Cincinnati, they take a big fall. Last week they were number 2. The way they got beat by Utah, I mean, no shame in that, but still just you thought it'd be a little closer. Cincinnati got handled by the Utes, and they take a big fall this week in the rankings.
TCU at number 6, and that's a scary game, I think, for teams like BYU who still have to face the Horned Frogs. Iowa State could lose their 5th game in a row this week, going down to Fort Worth. TCU has to return to Provo the week after that, and that's going to be an interesting one because those are teams that have a history playing one another from their days in the Mountain West, even if it was a short time playing one another. But I'm telling you, that TCU team is looking pretty decent right now. Houston took a tumble down the rankings this week to number 7. Not a shock. They could definitely move up in these rankings, of course, the rest of the year, but you lose to a not very good West Virginia team, and you give up 45 points, and you do it at home, and no one was even there to see it anyway. I mean, all of those things add up to Houston kind of losing a lot of that mojo that they had going into this last week.
Definitely. That was a disappointing showing by Houston. And then number 8, Baylor, great win for them, taking down UCF. I mean, their defense actually showed up. I think that was probably the noteworthy piece there, to only hold UCF to 3 points. I didn't expect the Baylor defense to do that against anyone. So that was a nice showing from Miranda's squad. And Arizona, number 9. Arizona is interesting to me because, they've been a tough out. They had Houston on the ropes. They had BYU on the ropes. I mean, this is a team that has been highly competitive throughout the entire year. I do think we've seen growth and progress in year 2 under Brent Brennan. That is clear. They just had some, losses along the way where they're sitting at 9, but much improved this Arizona team. And I think at the end of the season, that Arizona State rivalry game should be a fun one between those two in-state rivals.
You're going to tune in. You're going to tune in and watch the Territorial Cup. Is that what you're saying? You're heading down there and check it out. How about this for our 10, 11, and 12 rankings? And again, this is us every year going, I shouldn't be shocked by what the Big 12 gets us, but here we are. Double-digit rankings into Week 11 of the season. Iowa State at 10, Kansas State at 11, and Kansas at 12. Can you believe that, considering where we had these teams in our heads before the season started?
Yeah, and they're legacy members, too, in the Big 12 that have been around every step of the way since 1996. And, it's got to be kind of tough for them to see the BYUs, the Utahs, ASUs, and now Tech rising, who was with them for so many years. And they're kind of an afterthought this year in the league. Doesn't mean it'll be long-term, as we know, in this conference, but disappointing years this season for all these teams. And, we're at the point of a season where do teams just throw in the towel, and do players start looking and talking to their agents, say, hey, find me my next spot, my next bag? That can be a real distraction this time of the year. It really can be. And so I'm curious to see which of this group of teams that feels like it's a lost season, do they try to make the season right and close it out strong? I think that's kind of the big storyline I look at with a lot of these teams that had high expectations in the preseason and have come nowhere close to that this year.
I don't know if this is the highest we've had West Virginia, but it certainly feels like it a little bit right now. But West Virginia up to 13 after that win, of course, over Houston.
We had them a little higher after the backyard brawl win.
Oh, yeah,
back
maybe
in
at the
week
very
2,
beginning.
But that was a lifetime ago.
It was. That's 2 full months ago at this point. West Virginia has fallen considerably. I don't even know what quarterback they're on at this point. UCF at 14. That was an ugly loss over the weekend at the hands of Baylor, giving up not just 30 points, but only scoring 3 themselves. And then, hey, Colorado, welcome to the very almost bottom of this thing. You're only at 15. You're only at 15 because Oklahoma State is that bad. And, yes, those round out the rest of the rankings here for the Big 12 Power Rankings for this week. Coming up, we're going to take another break right here. We'll come back. More reaction to the College Football Playoff. Some tough questions were asked to the committee about, hey, why'd you put this team here? Hey, what about this team over here? And I think people want to know and want to have some answers as to why some of these SEC teams and Big Ten teams still find themselves way up in those rankings. We'll talk about that next right here. It's another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Stay here.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Welcome back into First and 12. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you on your weekly check-in on Big 12 football. And the college football playoff rankings are out, and it just lets us know that, man, we're getting close to postseason football in the college football season. There's 3 Big 12 teams in the initial playoff rankings by the 12-person committee. BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 8, number 13, Utah. I think Cincinnati had a case to be, 24 or 25, somewhere in there. But, hey, ultimately, you're in the back half of the playoff rankings. You're not sniffing the bracket.
Oh, yeah.
So
no, at that point, it's just a boost of the ego.
Yes.
If you can sneak in, but you should still feel slighted if Tennessee's 6-3 and they get ahead of you and you're going, what gives, man? But it is a little bit of an indicator. I wonder how much the College Football Playoff Committee even talks about those 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Like, who cares?
I would love to know the reasoning. And it was interesting, just kind of a side note on those rankings. No group of 5 teams. Are we getting to a point where we're letting go of a trial balloon to say, hey, this is an all-power conference playoff world? I know that there's going to be a group of 5 team in the field, and that would be Memphis. If the poll extended further, the playoff committee will have rankings for those teams. But it was interesting to see no group of 5 teams, because typically there's always been a Boise, or when BYU was an independent, there were teams outside the power structure working their way in. That's not happening anymore.
No, and it makes no sense to me, because it's almost like they're going, well, we know we got to put them there at some point, but I guess we'll – but, like, they won't even put a placeholder, right? Like, for a team like Memphis, who, frankly, has done well this year.
Yes.
And by the way, you have a handful of these teams that are all in this conversation of going, hey, man, what about us? And you have these, again, it's an insult, I think, to put a Tennessee team in there with 3 losses and to just throw them a bone at 25. Like, what? So were they sitting around, watching this thing revealed tonight at their facility going, hey, good job, guys, like the old, like, reveal shows that they do for, like, the college basketball, bubble watch and all this. I don't know at what point, why don't you just put a Memphis at 25 just to say, hey, Memphis is right there, and by the way, they would be the team that we think would be the group of 5, champion, the highest ranked, other conference champion. And then they do this thing where they go, well, we know, we'll put them in there. And so when you see the actual bracket itself, and that's the part to me that's actually kind of interesting, when you look at the bracket, at what it would need to be or what it would look like today, it's very interesting to see BYU hosting Notre Dame down at LaVell Edwards Stadium, Texas Tech hosting a Big Ten team in Oregon. So 2 Big 12 teams in this setup right now, and I know it will not play out to be like this, and I'm certain that there are people in the committee and the powers that be and people in the southeastern region of the United States who would not like to have 2 Big 12 teams hosting first-round games. But I say to those people, like, aren't you happy with the fact that you're probably inflated a little bit too high to be number 4, Alabama, to be where you're at right there? Texas A&M probably could have had the argument to say, why aren't we number 1? We actually had the more difficult schedule to put this thing together. They probably have an argument to be number 1 or number 2 in this thing as Ohio State. And Indiana's probably going, why aren't we ahead of Ohio State? We beat Oregon at Autzen, another team that's in this conversation right now. So there are so many things that stand out to me, and I think that Utah sneakily being at that number 13, I say sneaky in the sense that they're not on the brackets that are, have that kind of like ultimate champion at the very end of it. But it's early, and if they keep winning out, they'll just kind of quietly sneak up. And what's the committee going to do? Make them go backward when they keep winning games? They're not going to. They've set a bar right here with 13 with Utah. And the only thing that's going to happen is teams like Virginia are going to lose, Mitch. Teams like even Georgia or Ole Miss or Notre Dame, cross your fingers that a team like – I say cross your fingers because if you're looking at on the outside – if you're a Big 12 team and you're going, look, are they going to be able to get 2 teams in? The answer should be yes. But if Notre Dame loses a game, then the answer will be yes. And I think that's the case. And so – the ACC looks a little bit weaker, I think, than people thought that it was going to be. And I think that you're going to sneak in 2 Big 12 teams. And right now, you have kind of 3 knocking at the door, to be honest.
You know what's interesting about these rankings, too, as you look at the college football playoff initial rankings? With Utah at 13, it's fascinating to me because BYU and Texas Tech, whoever loses that game, you feel like it has to default to be ahead of Utah. Because if Texas Tech loses to BYU,
right,
well, they've got the head-to-head on Utah. And if Utah, they're going to have a bye this weekend. So you got to think that at a minimum, or at the worst, Texas Tech is going to only fall, 3 spots at most, or maybe
11,
even
12. Yeah.
So,
where do they go?
So I feel like Utah being there as high as they are creates a situation where whoever loses this weekend between BYU and Texas Tech, it's not necessarily an elimination game, and I hope that's the case. Again, the playoff committee, they have this verbiage where they can say, we tear down the rankings and build it new every single week with new data.
They do
That's
not.
what they claim, but I think that was interesting to me, too. There were some other interesting tidbits. There was a teleconference, so a little bit inside baseball sort of concept here. After the committee reveals the rankings on ESPN, they then do a breakout with national media and local media. You can hop on this like old school teleconference and typically get the audio. We were obviously doing this show, so we don't have the audio yet, but we got the transcript. And some Big 12 specific questions were asked to Mack Rhoades, who is the Baylor AD. He is the college football selection committee chairman this year. That role has typically been Gary Barta, who Cougar fans remember years ago in COVID. Mack Rhoades was asked, why is Alabama ahead of teams like Ole Miss and BYU? And Mack Rhoades pointed to this. He said, when you look at resume, no one had a better stretch of 4 games. When you think about Alabama, really impressive. 2 of those wins on the road, going into Athens at Georgia, one of the hardest, toughest environments to be able to get a win out of there. Then he also brought up the Florida State discussion. Just felt like that 4-game stretch that Alabama won historical in the SEC. Nobody has beaten 4 straight ranked teams without a bye. Then they also finished that out with a good win against South Carolina. So a lot of praise being given to Alabama for that stretch they had against teams that were ranked in the AP top 25, which is kind of the issue here I look at.
Yeah, when they go, oh, ranked teams, you go, I thought you didn't care about other rankings. And by the way,
yes.
them saying that they'll tear down all the rankings every week and kind of build them fresh, number one, that's a massive lie. There's no way these guys could ever have this conversation and have it be. They will absolutely start. But it's also this weird way for them, Mitch, and you know how it is, for them to be able to go, oh, the conversation we had about, oh, there's no way that they're going to have Utah go ahead of these other teams. They'll do whatever they want. They'll put whatever the team they want to have in that spot ahead of where. And then guess what they do? They have people sit down and go, we're going to have to explain this whole thing with Ole Miss and BYU instead of Alabama. What do we say? I don't know. Tell them, go with do the whole ranking thing without buys. Do that one, right? Say that one. Hey, Craig, write this down. Like it's really unfortunate because we can see it coming. We can see it coming a freaking mile away, Mitch, every week.
Here's an interesting tidbit. I know we're up against. We'll get to a break here, but Mack Rhodes was asked specifically about Texas Tech. He had an interesting tidbit here. The loss at Arizona State without Baron Morton at quarterback, Arizona State wins that late. So we do talk about quality wins, but we also talk about quality losses.
Yes,
so
which
is considering that a quality loss.
It's a new thing this year, right? Yeah. They were told to consider, and not just quality losses, it's not to have games against people who are tough to play go that far against you. It's a little bit of the model we've seen out of college basketball, which, I don't want to go too far with it, but at the same time, I like that they at least brought that up as being a factor to say, hey, they lost a game that was a tough one, that you lose a game like that with a backup quarterback on the road, a ranked team, all those things. Anyway, we'll see. We'll come back. We've got more around the corner. Stay with us here on First and 12. We've got a week ahead of us. Oh, boy, it's a big one, too, so stay right here with us on KSL News Radio.
First and 12, a weekly roundup of America's most competitive football conference, the Big 12. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
Welcome on in, everybody. It's another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper, thanks for being with us on the program this evening. So many things going on in this Big 12, this crazy Big 12 that we've gotten to know so well over the past few years, Mitch, as we've done this program. So let's get things going here. We've got ourselves a handful of things to discuss because you have a lot of games staring you in the face here. And you could get shocked by every single one of them. It's the week ahead here in the Big 12.
The week ahead. Matchups that have us the most excited about the week to come in the Big 12.
And the action begins on Friday. There's only 5 games on the slate this week. A lot of byes around the conference, but it starts on Friday night, and Houston goes to UCF, 6 p.m. on FS1. The Cougs are looking to bounce back. Knights are looking to bounce back as well at home. They've been really good in those home spots this year. Should be a fun kind of pesky Friday night football matchup. I'm looking forward to this one.
I thought this was going to fall in the camp of you sickos who want to tune in on a Friday night to watch Houston go to
I'm in
Orlando.
For this one.
Absolutely. I mean, are you kidding? Like those Friday night games on FS1, I'm all about them, man. So then things get kicked off officially on Saturday early.
Here we go.
Now, you were talking about Mark Rhodes, who's the is he the committee chair? Yeah, he's the committee chair this year. Mack Rhodes, the committee chair for the college football playoff. And he was doing the whole back and forth and the question and answer session. And Mack Rhodes at the very end, I know you saw this because he kind of just threw it in there as like a little kind of a throwaway. But take what you will out of it. He said, because he was talking about Texas Tech and Baron Morton, and we talked about it right before we went to break. It was the Arizona State win. And we talk about quality wins, but we also talk about quality losses. That was the exact quote. But then he ended his quote with this. But Texas Tech, just a really, really good football team. This is verbatim, by the way.
Yeah.
Quote, look, we tried to help ESPN out with their ratings, getting BYU and Texas Tech together with Game Day in Lubbock. So enjoy that.
So that these is guys, such a bad quote in written form.
It's terrible because it's just like this whole no, look, here's what we took into account. And then they go, hey, ESPN. And I know he's probably saying it a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit, kind of trying to joke a little bit, but
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt when I hear the audio, but the transcript is awful.
It looks bad. It sounds like the guy is throwing a bone to this little measly conference over here, like, hey, you're welcome for this first week, but enjoy it because one of those teams is going to lose, and I can't wait to bounce them the heck out of the rankings the next week. Isn't that what it felt like a little bit? So enjoy that. That's what he said. That's how he ended his dadgum press conference. So enjoy that. It made it sound like it was so petty, but maybe that's just me reading into it with my own Big 12 insecurities. So there you go.
Yeah, that was a quite a quote, if you will, from Mack Rhodes, who, you know, he loves the Big 12. He's a Baylor man. He's probably the ace in the whole AD in the Big 12, but still, he's probably a little bit of jealousy too that his program is nowhere close to that. So enjoy that, guys. You enjoy that because it's not going to hold up much longer. So get the Big 12 money worthwhile. That $2.5 billion that you're paying to get the Big 12 ESPN, you're going to enjoy it with this weekend, which I do think this BYU Texas Tech game, which now pairs number 7 BYU versus number 8 Texas Tech, 10 a.m. on ABC. I think it's a huge opportunity for the conference to really showcase the style of play in this league where you've got two physical football teams. It's no longer just, you know, the high-scoring games. You know, Patrick Mahomes is expected to be there, and when you think of him and Texas Tech, you think of those, you know, video game numbers that he had against teams like Baker Mayfield and Oklahoma back in the day. Now, these are two physical football teams that have no problem playing in a low-scoring game if needed. Now, I don't think it's going to be low-scoring, but I just think this is going to be a really fun football game, and hopefully it's one that goes down to the wire and it becomes an instant classic. And if it does, you know, that's great for the Big 12 because if that happened, maybe it could be a situation where it positions both teams to control their destiny to get to the playoff.
It's interesting you brought that up because a close game actually is exactly what they need, regardless of however this one goes. If you're looking at trying to be able, because they make that part of the conversation.
Make the call in Irving. Make the call in Irving.
Hey, get this one close. I want something into an overtime. But I don't want a kicker to decide it. We don't need that for the conference. No, that was. I really do think. I mean, they said it. Look, close games matter. And so a blowout you don't need. You know what I mean? And so your team will take a massive hit if you get blown out on either side of this thing in either direction. And if you get blown out enough, like they'll look at it and go, well, I don't know. Utah didn't get what did Utah do against BYU? What did Utah do against Texas Tech, which by the end of that game, that looked like a blowout. So, but again, early in the season too. So it matters when you lose games and how you lose them. That's really what it comes down to. And you know, you could go undefeated the first 8 or 9 games. You lose 1 or 2 toward the end, you get looked at a lot different in the hallways at the College Football Playoff Committee ranking days. So next up, of course, that's the big one for the week. But Colorado goes to West Virginia. That's also going to be a 10 a.m. game on TNT.
You're only going to be watching that game if you have YouTube TV. That's the only way you're watching that game.
So you're just relegated to, hey, Dad, turn on the Texas Tech. Oh, no. They're still disputing. The mouse can't figure it out with YouTube TV. We got to watch West Virginia and Colorado. See what this kid out of Carrollton, Georgia has for us. This Juju Lewis guy. I've heard a lot about him. No thanks. Next up, Kansas going to Arizona. This has become an intriguing game, I think, from the Arizona side of things because you get this sort of Jekyll and Hyde thing with Arizona this year. Brent Brennan's got a really talented quarterback. Noah Fafita gets forgotten a lot because they lost those 2 close games. It was BYU one week, and then what was it the week right after? Where they were both just heartbreaker losses for them, and then just people start to forget about you. And I think they're playing pretty decent football in Kansas. They're in a really weird spot, so we'll see how that one goes as well.
Noah Fafita is 3rd in Big 12 play in passing yards. He's been excellent this year. So the Fafita that we remember 2 years ago when Arizona felt like they were near the top of the college football world, he's returning to that. It's just, you know, Arizona hasn't got anywhere close to the national spotlight, so it's kind of getting tuned out a little bit. But he's been really good, and he's still only a junior. So if if they finish strong, maybe can build some momentum going into next year potentially, because that guy's been wined and dined in the portal or been flirted with the portal for, it feels like, multiple years now, but he's still in Tucson. So this could be a big stretch run for Arizona looking ahead to the future, too, for that program. And then also at 1:30, we're going to have an early night in the Big 12. There's no late night action. Everything gets done after the 1:30 games. Iowa State at TCU, 1:30 p.m. on Fox. That's a good game.
Yeah.
Iowa State looking to avoid a 5-game losing streak, while TCU just quietly 6-2, 2 losses in league play, but they get this one, they could be 7-2 going to Provo and have a chance to maybe be knocking on the door of the top 25. It's a big game here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, look, if you're into, again, getting those games in early. Look at that, Mitch. We're gonna have a Saturday evening. What are we gonna do? Do I call you? I don't know what happens. Like, do we go get an early lunch or an early get an early dinner in at the old? I guess you'll be making your way back from Lubbock, so we'll
yes,
figure that out.
I will be. I'll be enjoying the fine festivities in Lubbock, but teams that will also be enjoying their weekend, the byes. 6 teams on bye. That's got to be some conference record. Let's put that in a press release.
Yeah, and not only that, it's because of this, the way the calendar works out, and you've got 2 bye weeks for everybody this year and 3 for a couple of them. Arizona State out, Baylor out, Cincinnati out, Kansas State out, Oklahoma State out, Utah all sitting out. All those teams, by the way, and anybody this time of year, they need these bye weeks, man, to get right. It's so many injuries across the board, and so many big names that aren't going to be even playing the rest of the year, but so many that need to get back for these last 3 or 4 games of the season as well. We'll take another break here. We'll come back for our final segment, which is we're going to throw down some of our own predictions here, and I dare say that we probably won't agree on all of them. So how these games are going to shake out in the Big 12 this weekend, stay with us right here. It's First and 12 on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Thanks for being with us on another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper, thanks for being with us on the program, everybody. Mitch, of course, going to be headed down to Lubbock for the biggest Big 12 game of the week this weekend. And Mitch, would we consider this a bucket list item for you on the trips that you've taken across the world? In terms of rankings and in terms of importance of games, this is as big as any of the ones that you've covered. But I'm assuming that going to Lubbock might not necessarily be the big name venue that you had necessarily thought it was going to be.
Definitely not, but I'm excited, to see the Texas Tech students already lined up for, their seating for Saturday's game. They started lining up on Monday. Ooh. Joey McGuire rolled over to the student line and started signing pretty much anything the students were handing his way, which I'm sure was a variety of unique items that students were handing out to the ball coach. But I'm excited. I think, the underrated aspect of the Big 12 is just the environments, the crowds. They're energized. They're excited. I think back to 2 weeks ago in Ames, that was a hyped-up crowd for a 5-2 football team. Still a lot better than 5-4, but that was sold out, great tailgating scene. That's what the Big 12 provides. These are fan bases that care a lot about their teams, and so the outcomes of these games, they live and die by their alma mater, their team, and want to see these teams come out on top. And that's where now we can give our predictions to let them know in advance if their favorite teams are going to come out on top.
All right, so let's get to it. We've got our predictions coming your way with the Big 12 this week, and what we are going to see, it's our game predictions for Week 11. Let's do it.
First and 12 predictions, scores, blowouts, and more with Mitch and Alex on First and 12.
Let's start with Friday's game, Houston at UCF. I'm going to go with the Cougs to bounce back in the bounce house. What about you, Alex?
I'm calling a weird, I don't know if it's that weird. It's an upset, I guess, on paper. I don't know. Houston, I think you lose that game the way that they did. I know they want to bounce back big time, but I think UCF, they need a bounce back bigger than Houston does, in my opinion, just because of how badly they came out against Baylor. But I think Scott Frost and his guys, they're going to pull one off here in Orlando. I say UCF gets that win over Houston.
Yeah, I can see that. That's going to be a good game. Colorado at West Virginia. Who you got?
Yikes. I'm going to go with West Virginia because it's at West Virginia for no other reason. And partly because Colorado also, you said it earlier in the program, like, I just don't know what their motivation is at this point. You know, you get to that place. West Virginia is at least going, hey, we got to defend our turf here. Colorado goes, where are we going again? You know what I mean? Like, there's that part of it that goes, in Prime, it goes, man, they're going to be ready to kick your butt. And they will. They'll be ready to do it because I don't know if Colorado, to me, it just is, they've been so bad the last couple of weeks. I think that there's not a lot of buy-in for this program right now. I'm going to go with West Virginia with a win over Colorado.
It might shock you. I'm going to go with Colorado.
What?
I'm buying into Juju Watkins that maybe for 1 week he looks awesome and gets Colorado excited again for 1 week. I don't think it's going to be anything long-term. It's this week only.
Give me that
an
1 week
isolated
buy-in.
week.
Give
he
me
puts
that
it all
one-
together. So
Give
I'm
me
going to
that
go with the
1 week
Buffs
buy-in.
to pull
Yeah.
it off the
All
upset.
right, fine. Juju Lewis, we'll see how he does. Kansas going to Arizona down to Tucson. Not a place that you picture Kansas playing very often, but it's one of those places they got to get to. I don't think Lance Leipold and his guys are that into this season now at this point either. When was the last time we even mentioned this Kansas team in a good light? It's been a while, and I think Arizona is a better team than we probably give them credit for. They've lost close games. Kansas is getting beat up bad. And you think about losing that Kansas State game the way that they did and the way Kansas State played at their place next week. Like, I don't know what to think about this Kansas team except for they're not playing good football. I think Arizona's going to steal this one.
I think you make a great point on the conference realignment because these new matchups that we get in realignment, like,
Super
BYU,
weird.
Texas Tech, that's nice, but Kansas, Arizona,
Give me my
this
West
is-
Virginia Colorados any day of the week.
I don't know about this one. Well, I'm going to go with Arizona. I think when you talk about the only things that we've discussed Kansas for this year was a fake knife gate. So really that's the highlight of the season. That shows you how bad it's been this year for the Jayhawks. I'm going with Arizona. I think the Wildcats are going to win big. How about Iowa State at TCU? Does Iowa State avoid a 5-game losing streak?
No, they do not. They're going to be 5-5, and here's what's even more weird. They're going to be staring right in the face to a possibility of not being bowl eligible after being ranked 13th earlier in the season, Mitch. Like I say that not that they're going to go on a 7-game losing streak, although we saw Utah do that last year.
Could happen.
I mean, it absolutely could happen because I don't, and this is me not knowing what the rest of their schedule looks like, but TCU, every game is a must-win. They're the Utah of Texas right now, right? Like, they can win out and kind of be in a little bit of a spot to make some people make some weird decisions. It's not that they're going to be in a national conversation. They're not beating teams the way that Utah has. But TCU, they get to 7-2 and 8-2 and 9-2, and then suddenly you go, hold on a minute. What about that team over here? And I don't know where they stand on the tie breaks, but I'm telling you, Sonny Dykes and his guys, and Josh Hoover, that's a nice quarterback, and that's a good system. Iowa State, there's no way they go into TCU and win this game. TCU's got way too much on the line, and Iowa State, I feel like they're just lost right now.
I'm going with the Cyclones to lose this one. I'm going to say TCU gets done. I did pull up Iowa State's schedule. After this week, they play Kansas at home, then Oklahoma State. So they probably should close strong. But this one, I think they dropped to 500 after this week against TCU. Now the big one, BYU at Texas Tech. Number 7, BYU. Number 8, Texas Tech, courtesy of the College Football Playoff rankings. I've been torn on this one, Alex. Not torn per se. That might be the wrong word to put it. I've been trying to draw a path to BYU winning this game, kind of seeing both sides of the argument. I think BYU is opportunistic on defense. They generate takeaways. They are really good at that. I mean, they're secondary. You go back to last year, 20 of their last 21 games, they have at least one pick. I got to think they're going to get a pick or two on Baron Morton. I think they can do it. But, man, I just think Texas Tech personnel-wise, this is a different level. And I think even Aaron Roderick, BYU's offensive coordinator, highlighted this. He said this is the best team that BYU will have faced since 2023 against Texas. And that year, that was 2 years ago. That was a lifetime ago in the Big 12. But
Yeah.
BYU lost big in that one. I think this is going to be competitive. This is going to be a really good game because BYU has evolved a lot since that year against Texas 2 years ago. But in terms of just overall talent, this is far and away the best team BYU, I think, has faced since they've joined the Big 12. I'm going to go with Texas Tech, kind of a real signature moment for the Red Raiders in West Texas and Lubbock. But I think it comes down to the wire. I just think that they got more talent. And I also like, too, the defense of Tech. They are so good at stopping the run. And with L.J. Martin at not 100%, I'm going to go with Tech in this one. What about you?
Yeah, it's hard not to. I mean, obviously, the BYU would never think this, but they get a mulligan, Mitch. I mean, the reality is that this game for Texas Tech, like, if they lose this game, they're in the conversation now with a bunch of two-loss teams in the Big 12, and they're having to rely on other people and tiebreakers and all that stuff to come into play. Texas Tech has so much on this game, and BYU does too. Don't get me wrong. The real question is going to be, okay, if BYU does lose this game, which I have Texas Tech winning this game too, and I don't have them winning it handily. I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I don't know what version of L.J. Martin BYU is going to roll out in this game on Saturday. I think Bear is going to be very good. I think that they are going to look and they're going to say, we know what we have to do to attack this team, and they're looking at each other and they're going, this is our house at Texas Tech. Taylor Swift's best friend's husband is going to be at this game. We don't know how to react to this thing. I do think that Texas Tech has so much on this game, and BYU, I think it's so hard to stay perfect in this conference. It's going to be difficult to do. The question is, how do they respond next week? Because last year they lost their first game, and then they lost their second game 2 weeks in a row, and that doomed them the rest of the way. So how do they handle that first loss is going to be an interesting thing to be able to see. So we both have Texas Tech eking the win out, and we'll have to convene again next week on another version of our 1st and 12 program. So, Mitch Harper, thanks for joining me, man. Have fun down there in Lubbock, brother.
Thanks, Alex. Always a pleasure, man.
All right, we'll take another break here. We'll come back again next week for another edition of 1st and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Thanks to Alex Brown, who stuck around late with us to produce this week. So for Mitch and Alex, I'm Alex. We'll see you next time, everybody, right here on KSL News Radio.